Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at a terrifying collision. The moment when this immense, self-assured privilege slams head-on into something ancient, something truly uncompromising.
And our focus is a man named Billy Halleck. He's a successful lawyer from Connecticut, overweight, and he has this deep-seated belief that his wealth and his connections make him, completely untouchable.
And this dive is, I think, really crucial because it's not just a plot summary. We are tracking the narrative decline of one man, yes, but it's bigger than that.
It is. We're really looking at the systematic, physical, and psychological unraveling of three men: a driver, a judge, and a police chief. All of them are linked by this single catastrophic legal cover-up.
And the sheer horror of what happens to them it's matched only by how specific, how tailored the punishment is for each of them.
Exactly.
So let's establish Billy's world first. He was living what he called Fat City. Initially, he's tipping the scales at a comfortable 246 pounds. He is the absolute archetype of Fairview success.
Affluent, influential, and totally convinced that money can solve any problem, including, he thinks, his own weight.
The entire illusion of control, of being sort of safely insulated by his social standing, that just shatters one afternoon.
Right while he's driving with his wife, Heidi.
Mhm.
And the source material really paints a picture of just extreme carelessness leading to an extreme consequence.
It does. And the details of the accident are so key to understanding everything that follows. His guilt, his denial, all of it. He was distracted.
And we learn just how intimately distracted he was. Heidi is unzipping his fly as they're driving.
And in that moment of distraction, he strikes an old gypsy woman, Susanna Lemke, who's just crossing the street. The impact is, well, it's horrific.
Oh, it's incredibly graphic. The source details how her arm was almost torn from her body, her pelvis pulverized, her skull shattered. I mean, it was immediately graphically lethal.
It's vehicular manslaughter. There's just no other way to describe it.
Undeniable. But in a place like Fairview, clear evidence of guilt often means very little when it's up against systemic power. And what follows is just a swift and frankly sickening display of institutional corruption.
Billy's legal safety net just deploys instantly.
And the centerpiece of this corruption is his friend, Judge Kerry Rossington.
His golfing and poker buddy.
Exactly. And Rossington, crucially, fails to disqualify himself from the hearing. So the fix is in from the absolute start.
And the source material is, it's scathing about how the community reacts. It notes that nobody really questioned the swiftness or the bias of it all because the victim was just dismissed. She was a filthy gypsy.
So the end result: the vehicular manslaughter charge gets instantly dismissed. Billy doesn't lose a single point on his license.
And this, I think, is the most damning detail of all. The investigating officer never even bothered to administer a breathalyzer test,
Which completely eliminates any chance of exploring impairment. It's just swept under the rug.
and this systemic injustice is the trigger for everything that follows. Immediately after the dismissal, as Billy and Heidi are leaving the courthouse, they're confronted.
They are. By the victim's relative. This is Tadeusz Lemke, the old gypsy man. And his description is just. It's terrifyingly primal. A hideous ancient grin, black and green stumps for teeth.
And a rotting nose. It speaks to a life just lived on the absolute fringes of society.
He steps directly into Billy's privileged path, right in front of him.
And without any big show, no lengthy hex, he just reaches out. He caresses Billy's cheek with one twisted, dry finger, and he whispers a single word.
The word that forms the title of this terrible story.
Jenner.
Just that. And Billy, at first, he just dismisses it. He thinks it's a bizarre, unsettling, maybe even sort of impotent theatrical gesture.
He assumes the terror will just fade. But the curse, it was instant. It was tangible.
Absolutely. The source stresses that just 6 weeks later, Billy is 93 pounds lighter than his starting weight. And that initial terror has turned into this icy, inescapable reality.
So, our mission today is to track that bizarre, relentless physical decline. To analyze the specific, tailored horror inflicted upon all three men responsible for the cover-up, and to witness how this intensely personal tragedy just escalates.
It escalates into a brutal confrontation between, on the one hand, ancient, primal vengeance, and on the other, the calculated brutality of modern organized crime.
Let's unpack the price of being the white man from town who thought he could buy his way out of consequence. So we begin with Section 1, Billy Halleck's relentless decline. And if you're looking for an aha moment here, I think it's this. The horror of the curse isn't really the weight loss itself. It's the absolute futility of Billy's attempt to use his wealth and, scientific understanding to stop it.
What's so psychologically compelling is the sheer scale of his initial denial. His starting weight was 246 pounds. When this sudden drop begins, 30 pounds lost in just 3 weeks, he tries desperately to rationalize it.
Right. He tells himself it must be the slight increase in his activity, maybe the golf he played, or the stress of the lawsuit, anything but the truth.
And he tries to outeat the curse. He has this belief that if this is just metabolism or some dietary thing, he can overcome it through sheer caloric force.
This source gives us these astonishing details of what he's eating. 3 fried eggs, 6 sausages, multiple Twinkies, English muffins.
Half a pint of French fries, and 2 generous helpings of peach cobbler with hard sauce. This man is trying to consume 5,000, 6,000 calories a day.
And he's still losing 2 pounds a day despite this massive intake.
This level of desperate caloric denial. It's a psychological defense mechanism as immense as the man he used to be. He needs to believe his body is just responding to a normal, if extreme, physical process.
And not a supernatural decree.
Exactly. Not a curse whispered on the courthouse steps.
And this illusion of control is just systematically dismantled. One of the most significant symbolic moments happens at the Mohonk Resort. He's there to relax, but he can't escape the anxiety that's just building and building.
No. And he steps onto this nostalgic penny scale. It's an old-fashioned way of seeking a definitive, an objective number. He gets on, fully dressed, after a massive breakfast.
And the scale reads 232 pounds. He's already lost 14 pounds since the curse began, but he's still clinging to this hope that maybe it's plateauing, maybe it's stopping.
But the scale delivers more than just a number, doesn't it?
It does. It dispenses a fate card, a supposed fortune. And instead of, a prediction of love or wealth, it delivers a single, undeniable black word.
Thinner.
That moment just transforms the anxiety into undeniable horror. It forces him to look at the process as something external, something targeted, and something highly malicious.
And that transformation is physically tracked through the gruesome chronology of his clothing. We focus specifically on his favorite Neeks belt.
Before the accident, he'd had to retire it because it was too small. He could only button it on the very first hole.
Now, that same belt becomes this accelerating timeline of his doom.
Yeah.
He has to constantly punch new holes in it. He goes past the 2nd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th hole.
He realizes the weight loss is speeding up, not slowing down. He needs new holes almost weekly.
And the necessity of punching that 7th hole with his Swiss Army knife. That is a moment of pure, desperate acknowledgement. He is actively destroying his own property just to keep his clothing on this shrinking, terrified body.
By this point, he's down to 188 pounds.
A loss of nearly 60 pounds from his initial 246. The belt is screaming the truth. His mind is still struggling to accept.
And this internal breakdown of denial, it inevitably starts to affect his professional life. We see this humiliating breakdown of selective perception right in the courtroom, his safe space.
Well, the courtroom is where Billy exercises control. It's where he maintains his image of competence and authority. So when he stands up to make an objection, the source notes that his suit pants, the ones previously buttoned at the first hole, they literally fall down.
He has to sit down abruptly to hide it, making this bizarre hop or a Peter Rabbit riff just to prevent complete exposure in front of his peers.
He spends the rest of the session trying to maintain his dignity by holding his trousers up through his suit coat pockets, just hoping no one notices.
But when he finally makes it to the men's room and strips down, that selective perception shatters completely.
He realizes he looks exactly like a kid dressed up in his father's clothes. The visual is just pathetic and terrifying. His expensive trousers, still buttoned at the waist, just slithered down to his ankles.
It's at this point that he fully accepts the supernatural reality of it.
Right. He realizes that cancer would have offered a mercifully fast timeline. But this slow, relentless wasting is a customized torture.
And that realization pushes him toward a new strategy, seeking a professional alibi. He needs a doctor to confirm he's sane, even if diagnosis is terrible.
So he turns to Dr. Michael Houston, who is just the medical mirror of Fairview's corruption. Handsome, wealthy, white hair, a Rolex, a perpetual Malibu tan.
The picture of success and impeccable health.
And Houston initially provides the most conventional, horrifying diagnosis, 5 in 6 chance of cancer.
Which is what Billy expects, right? Something medical, something manageable within the system he understands.
Exactly. But when Billy continues to shrink, he's now down to 217 pounds. Houston shifts his narrative entirely.
He lands on psychological anorexia nervosa. He suggests the weight loss is a manifestation of unacknowledged guilt over the accident.
This is the medical system providing a clean, sanitized explanation for a primal curse.
But the source so brilliantly undercuts Huster's credibility. Billy, ever the sharp lawyer, he notices something.
A dusting of white powder under his nose. Houston, the pillar of medical society, is clearly sniffing cocaine.
And this detail isn't just color, it's leverage. Billy stores it away. He's realizing that everyone in the circle of privileged driver, judge, police chief, and now the doctor, they are all morally compromised.
And the personal toll on his family is equally devastating. His wife Heidi becomes increasingly anxious.
She's smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day. She's got dark circles under her eyes. She's genuinely scared for her husband's life.
But Billy begins to view her with this sudden, savage hate. And why? Because the curse is this inescapable consequence, but Heidi is only suffering anxiety. She's only part of the guilt, not the recipient of the punishment.
He violently recalls the moments before the accident. Heidi had scurried over next to him and unzipped his fly, her fingers slipping through his shorts. She was the direct, proximate cause of his distraction.
She was complicit, but only he was touched by Lemke, and only he is melting away. His rage is directed at her for surviving the consequences of their shared recklessness.
This psychological avoidance leads to more relational damage. Even his daughter, Linda, notices the extreme decline.
His teenage daughter, Linda, she's observing her father's skeletal frame trying to eat another massive meal, and she just flees the dinner table, sobbing.
She sees the terror, the unnatural decline, in a way that rationalizing adults around her just cannot. The curse is turning his loved one's affection into fear and horror.
This whole psychological landscape really sets the stage for what comes next.
It does. It sets the stage for Section 2, the expanding circle of vengeance. The crucial insight here is that the curse is not just random magic. It is a system of personalized justice. It's targeting the men based on their specific corruption.
Okay, so let's unpack this thematic connection. Billy starts to realize that the curse targets not just him, the perpetrator, but the entire systemic injustice they enabled.
Right. The source draws a very clear line between the three men responsible for denying justice to Susanna Lemke.
You have Billy Halleck, the driver, representing denial and indulgence. You have Judge Kerry Rosington, representing judicial corruption and coldness. And then Police Chief Duncan Hopley, representing investigative complicity and moral decay.
Let's start with Judge Rosington, the man who manipulated the courtroom. Billy goes to see his wife, Lita, and she's already drinking heavily. Gin straight, with olives, a woman just collapsing under the stress of her husband's private horror.
And she confirms it. She confirms that Rosington was also touched by Tadeusz Lemke. It happened at a Raintree flea market shortly after the verdict.
So the curse is officially contagious among the guilty.
It is. And Rosington's affliction is termed reverse evolution. This is crucial. If Billy's punishment is wasting away his indulgence, Rosington's is the physical manifestation of his cold, armored nature.
His skin is turning into scales. It's described as looking yellowish, hard, and pebbly. The description is so detailed and sickening.
It is. Great, rough reptile scales, like those on a lizard or a gator or an iguana. He's being reduced, quite literally, to a creature of reptilian coldness.
Encased in this armor that offers no protection at all from the internal horror.
The scaling is spread across his chest, his belly, and the detail that his navel has just gone is particularly grotesque. And it's advancing toward his genitals. It's replacing his pubic hair. He is losing the last vestiges of human mammalian warmth.
And his physical reality is perfectly mirrored by his psychological delusion. The judge, this rational man of law, he's screaming that this transformation is nothing more than fucking skin cancer caused by a UV lamp.
And that he's going to sue the dirty quacks who diagnosed him. He completely refuses to acknowledge the primal source of his affliction.
Lita, though, she knows the truth. She says he now looks like an alligator. And because the scales are spreading into his mouth, everything he says just comes out in these grunts.
The ultimate voice of judicial authority has been reduced to guttural noise. It's a perfect, visceral indictment of judicial corruption.
She even expresses this terrifying fear that he might soon need to be kept in a tank just to keep his skin wet. He's being completely stripped of the dignity his position afforded him.
So if we move from the judiciary to enforcement, we get to Duncan Hopley, the police chief, the one who facilitated the cover-up by ignoring standard procedure.
Namely the breathalyzer.
Right. And Hopley's fate is putrefaction, the physical rotting of his moral decay.
And Billy uses that leverage he gained, Houston's cocaine habit, to get Hopley's medical files. Houston had initially dismissed it as runaway acne.
But when Billy finally sees the chief, the reality is a relief map of hell.
We're talking about malignant red pimples the size of tea saucers, oozing pus with blackheads and blood just trickling constantly across his face. Shaving is impossible.
The source notes the sheer horror when Hopley turns a tensor lamp on his own face, just revealing the depth of the corruption. It's just awful.
And Hopley's hiding in the dark. He's suicidal. He even notes his service pistol is in the third drawer, a detail that confirms his complete and utter despair.
He explicitly views their shared suffering as a strange form of twisted, savage justice from the Gypsy. He tells Billy he'd kill the old man very slowly if he could, but he also accepts his fate as deserved retribution.
What's so critical for the analysis here is that Hopley was already morally dead inside.
Right.
He viewed the cover-up throwing as much dirt as he could over any possible culpability as a necessary, if dirty, part of the job.
So his physical rotting is a direct, external manifestation of his internal moral decay. He is literally festering, just as the system he protected festers.
So if we connect this back to the bigger picture, the pattern is unmistakable for you, the listener. The curse is a perfect retaliatory system.
Absolutely. Billy, the guilty driver defined by indulgence, is wasting away. Rossington, the corrupt judge defined by cold authority, is armored and scaling. And Hopley, the complicit investigator defined by decay, is actively rotting.
All three were touched by Lemke, and all three are suffering these highly personalized, grotesque physical ailments that seem custom-designed to attack the core of their social identities and their moral failings.
And this realization is what pushes Billy beyond medicine and law and directly into the realm of violence.
This realization brings us to Section 3. The pragmatist enters the nightmare. Billy, now radically changed, he's skeletal and terrified, is forced to abandon the systems of privilege that failed him and embrace radical criminal action.
He's moved entirely into a realm where legal precedent and medical science are just useless. He realizes the only path forward is a direct confrontation with the one who started it all.
His investigation, which is documented by a detective he hires, leads him north up I-95. He's chasing the traveling gypsy community through these various New England locales: Old Orchard Beach, Booth Bay Harbor, Bar Harbor.
And the investigation confirms a critical detail that really deepens the motivation behind the vengeance. The woman he killed, Susanna Lemke, was Tadeusz Lemke's daughter.
So this isn't just revenge for a tribe member, this is familial, generational loss.
Which explains the profound, unwavering nature of the curse.
Now, at his deepest hour of need, he's down to a horrifying 137 pounds and just struggling with exhaustion. Billy reaches out to the one man who operates completely outside the constraints of Fairview society.
Richard Ginelli.
Ginelli is immediately established as Billy's mirror image in criminality. He's a self-proclaimed pragmatist with organized crime connections, a man who lives by the simple rules of force and transaction.
And the defining moment of their reunion is Ginelli's reaction to Billy's emaciation. Billy's down to 118 pounds by now. Ginelli doesn't question the curse for a single second.
While Billy wasted months trying to rationalize it with diets and cancer scares, Ginelli instantly accepts the supernatural reality.
Ginelli's philosophy is brutally simple, and it's a brilliant piece of dialogue that defines his character. He says, "I believe in what I see. The definition of an asshole is a guy who doesn't believe what he's seeing."
He only believes in guns and money. He is the antidote to Fairview's intellectual denial. He's a man of action, willing to engage in the necessary brutality.
Their first step is a direct and pretty ill-conceived confrontation. Billy, temporarily bolstered by Ginelli's presence, tracks down Tadeusz Lemke's camp in Maine.
He faces the old man and he tries to use his own language of intimidation. He claims to put a reverse curse, the curse of the white man from town, on the gypsies. He warns them that white men, once they start, are experts at cursing too.
This attempt at intimidation is met with immediate, visceral violence from Gina Linking. She's this beautiful young woman, probably Tadeusz's granddaughter.
And she shoots Billy through the hand with a steel ball bearing from a slingshot.
The description of the injury is essential for establishing the supernatural stakes. Billy feels this hot, glassy spear of pain, but the pain is gone almost instantly. He looks down and realizes he can see the girl's furious face through his palm where there was a neat round hole.
But just as quickly, the skin knits itself back together, leaving only a white zigzag scar. The wound is healed instantly.
Because, as the recipient of the curse, Billy is already metabolically compromised. He can't be injured in a normal way. His body is just burning through everything.
This undeniable supernatural event, seeing through his own hand, confirms for Ginelli that they are dealing with real magic, not just folklore.
And Ginelli immediately takes control. He doesn't see this as a legal problem or a magical problem. He sees it as a gang war, a raw, escalating cycle of vengeance they call the push.
This concept of the push, this escalating counter-vengeance, is key to understanding the next stage. Janelli realizes the Gypsies operate by primal justice, so he decides to exceed their brutality. He's going to force capitulation through pure, overwhelming terror.
He starts his campaign with horrifying efficiency. He targets the Gypsy camp's defensive measure, 7 aggressive pit bulls housed in a corral.
And he doesn't just poison them, he uses psychological warfare.
He creates what is chillingly called Janelli's pit bull cocktail, a sinister mixture of potent Mexican brown heroin and strychnine, which he injects into steaks. He kills or incapacitates all 7 animals.
And then he deliberately leaves a note tucked under one of the dog's collars.
It reads, "Next time it could be your grandchildren, old man Willem Halleck says to take it off."
This is a massive shift in the moral landscape. Billy's curse was passive. It was a wasting disease predicated on guilt. Janelli's is active, it's violent, and it specifically targets the non-combatants, the children. He has crossed a line of terror that traditional vengeance often respects.
And he escalates quickly to human casualties. Janelli later kills a guard named Frank Spurton with a ball bearing to the head.
Precisely mimicking Gina's earlier slingshot attack, only with lethal force. The scene is described as instantly fatal. The victim looks like a ball of white feathers.
And he writes the word never on Spurton's forehead, in what he correctly assumes is chicken blood. It's this grotesque symbolic declaration of war against the push.
Janelli's final act of psychological warfare is his interrogation of Gina, the young woman who shot Billy. He poses as an FBI agent named Ellis Stoner, leveraging the fear of institutional power.
He uses the ultimate shock tactic to break her spirit. He pretends he's about to throw acid in her face.
But the acid is just mundane Pepsi Cola in a ball jar. He's leveraging the visual and the immediate terror of a chemical attack.
And when she flinches, he brutally kicks her, striking the back of her head against the car door. He then delivers the brutal ultimatum to Tadeusz Lemke via Gina. Remove the curse immediately, or Janelli will escalate from dogs to grandchildren.
He's using pure, calculated modern brutality against ancient ritual.
This extreme, amoral counter-vengeance, this push that became psychological torture, it succeeded where pleading failed.
Which brings us to Section 4, the Gypsy Pie and the final transfer. And this section is just rife with shocking reversals and moral catastrophe.
Janelli recounts his entire story to Billy. The dog poisoning, the murder of the guard, the terrifying interrogation, and confirms that Tadeusz Lemke capitulated.
Lemke feared Janelli's escalating crazy violence. He realized this aggressive counter-vengeance might disrupt the moral equilibrium that gave the original curse its power.
The Gypsies understood the rules of vengeance, but Janelli just refused to play by them.
So Tadeusz Lemke agrees to meet Billy in a park. Billy is down to 120 pounds, utterly weak, but fully aware that this is his last chance. Lemke explains the complex mechanics of the curse. He says it's a living thing, an irrational child inside Billy.
He even gives it a name in Rom, Purpurfargade and Siktet, which translates roughly to the purple-colored face, or the purple-colored curse. So the curse isn't just an illness, it's a sentient entity living off Billy's life force.
Lemke's tone is described as weary, not menacing. He's been forced into retreat by a force more ruthless than his own magic. He emphasizes the curse was enacted because Billy and his friends won't take blame for their actions.
And then Lemke presents Billy with the instrument of the transfer, the Gypsy Pie.
The description is so crucial to the sensory horror of the scene. It's loathsome, warm, and pulsing in its cheap aluminum plate, like a diseased, captured heart.
And we finally understand the anchor of the curse. It's the vessel because it contains Billy's blood from the slingshot wound Gina inflicted. That blood provided the supernatural link required to anchor the Purpurfargade and Siktet within a physical object for transfer.
And the condition for survival is stark. It's a final, horrifying term of service. Lemke warns Billy that he must transfer the pie with the cursed child inside it to someone else immediately.
Or the curse will return to Billy double, ensuring a swifter, more painful death. Billy is essentially told, you survive, but you must find a replacement victim.
But the moment Billy receives this grim pardon, the consequences of Janelli's actions are realized. Billy returns to his rental car, and there, waiting for him,
is Janelli's severed hand, with his distinctive gold ring and red stone just resting on the driver's seat.
The severed hand is a gruesome metaphor for Ginelli's own tactics. It's filled with steel ball bearings, the same ammunition Ginelli used to kill the guard. It implies a swift, hyper-violent, and perfectly personalized retaliation from the Gypsies.
They're now engaging in their own final act of push.
A newspaper clipping confirms the brutal aftermath. Ginelli was murdered, shot with a large-caliber weapon, and the word pig had been written on his forehead in blood.
The Gypsies refused to forgive the murder and the threat to their children. They chose a final eye-for-an-eye retaliation, matching Ginelli's violence with their own. Ginelli, the pragmatist, was pragmatically eliminated.
Billy, who is already starting to gain weight now that the curse is gone, he's up to 131 pounds, quickly fabricates a lie for his wife, Heidi.
The Gypsies weren't magic users. They were just common criminals. His illness was psychological, a delusion broken by hearing the old man's distinct Brooklyn accent and realizing he said "coys" for curse.
This fabrication is Billy's ultimate act of self-preservation and moral cowardice. He can't admit the supernatural reality, and he certainly can't admit the horrible condition for his survival. He returned home to Fairview, hides the pulsing pie, which is now sleeping, in his car trunk, and waits.
He waits for the moment of final betrayal.
He goes to bed, feigning sleep, waiting for the cover of night to commit the murder he was commissioned to perform. He hears the quiet rituals of his wife downstairs, the squeak of the cupboard door where they keep the dessert plates,
The slight rattle of the drawer as she selects cutlery, the subtle but distinct clink of a knife against the countertop.
Heidi opens the pie, which still pulsed slowly in its plate like a loathsome heart, and begins eating it alone at the kitchen counter. It's an old, quiet habit of hers.
She believes she has been forgiven for her role in the accident, and this meal is a quiet celebration of Billy's return to sanity and their normal, privileged life.
But then comes the horrifying, agonizing twist that elevates the story from simple horror to profound moral tragedy. As Billy is drifting towards sleep, convinced he sacrificed the only other guilty party, Heidi, he hears a specific, crystalline, dreadful detail.
The sound of a second plate and a second fork.
He snaps awake. He remembers seeing Linda's purse on the counter downstairs, a cheap purse covered with rock star buttons, a painful reminder of his teenage daughter.
Linda, who had fled the house after realizing the emotional chaos her parents were in, must have come home early.
So Billy is left suspended in this moment of moral paralysis, trapped by the question of who consumed the curse. Did Heidi share it with Linda? Did his innocent daughter, the only one who showed true, uncorrupted emotion about his decline, become the ultimate victim?
The victim of his final, cowardly act of self-preservation.
Billy collapses, his physical healing complete, but his soul entirely shattered. He hears the old Gypsy laughing, knowing that Billy successfully escaped the curse, but only by condemning the innocent. He is now trapped, perpetually, in the new terrible reality he created.
Where his survival means the murder of his own bloodline.
So what does this all mean for us, the listeners who have taken this deep dive? The conclusion of this tale is agonizingly simple yet profound. Billy Halleck successfully avoids the consequence of the wasting curse, but only by trading his life for another's.
It's the ultimate defining act of guilt avoidance. He trades his personal suffering, which was earned, for the condemnation of those he was meant to protect.
Billy completes the cycle of vengeance, ensuring the curse continues to victimize the white man from town and his family, but he himself is forced to live with the knowledge of his own monstrousness.
Which leads us back to the most important provocative question raised by the source material. What was the true nature of this curse? Was it actual, external, supernatural power delivered by Tadeusz Lemke?
Or did the three men's shared deep-seated guilt, the vehicular manslaughter, the judicial corruption, the police cover-up did, that prepare them perfectly to be victimized by a simple word and the fear of a primitive form of justice?
Let's look at the evidence for this psychosomatic interpretation. Dr. Houston, the coke-sniffing physician, suggested Billy suffered from psychoanorexia, a manifestation of his own unacknowledged guilt.
Right, and Rossington was so focused on finding a medical diagnosis of skin cancer that he couldn't see the primal nature of the affliction. It suggests his denial was creating his symptoms.
And Hopley accepted the horror. He viewed it as savage justice, a manifestation of his own inner moral decay. Their ingrained corruption left them spiritually vulnerable.
We have these supernatural anchors that just defy a purely psychological explanation.
Absolutely. The scale at Mohonk delivered the single word sinner. The slingshot wound instantly healed, proving Billy's body was operating outside normal biological parameters. The gypsy pie itself pulsed and contained his blood.
and Janelli's hand, found later, filled with steel ball bearings. These details suggest the curse was, at a minimum, a hyper-efficient psychological trigger layered upon actual functional magic.
It's the perfect unsolvable duality. The system of privilege they belong to, Fairview, is what the curse targets. It targets the arrogance that says, I can do anything and buy my way out of it.
The men were physically punished in ways that directly mirrored their moral corruption. It forced them to confront the exact moral failing they had perpetrated.
What knowledge, once gained, the knowledge of one's own culpability and the moral fragility of the system that protects you, can ever be undone?
Billy Halleck's story suggests that once you know you are a monster, or at least that you can be one, that knowledge becomes a poison far more deadly than any gypsy curse. He's free from the wasting, but he is now eternally tormented.
And no amount of feigned sanity, self-deception, or regained weight can ever erase the agonizing ambiguity of that final transfer.
The sound of that second fork hitting the plate is the new soundtrack to Billy's eternal torment.
It's the sound of the ultimate price for absolute privilege denial.
A truly terrifying thought to end on. It suggests that some forms of justice are inescapable, regardless of how many lives you sacrifice to avoid them. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.